Well, speaking of low T3 syndrome, I know that Mike got that when he found out that his hero, Liver King, was doing steroids.
Danny, yeah. I literally was like, I went pure hypothyroid, pure hypogonadal. I had to, I started injecting growth hormone. No, I'm just joking.
I thought you were going to talk about Liver King's low T3.
Oh, did he release his labs? Is that on his?
I think he did at one point. I don't remember. I don't know. Obviously, I mean, one of the inherent effects of a carnivore diet is going to be low T3, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, well, do you want to set this up, or do you want to watch it, or why are we talking about?
Sure. I mean, so to set it up, I think it was like 8 months ago. Liver King it got found out. He got exposed that he was on steroids, for however many years.
You sure it wasn't exposed with his first Instagram photo?
And this was like a big deal in the health industry because the whole idea that he was indirectly putting forth was, I got to where I am based on this animal-based diet or a carnivore diet, and suggesting people to follow those tenets to be like him. And the whole concern from more the fitness industry is that the fact that he was on steroids means that this was not attainable based on what he was doing with diet and lifestyle. And I think that was why it blew up. Like, I think for us, that was like kind of obvious and didn't mean as much, but I think there's like some other things that are important here. One is the fact that he needed steroids based on his diet and lifestyle. And he talked, so in the initial interview, when he came out about this, he talked about the fact that his over-exercising, which he deemed as unhealthy, is a part of like his body image issues, his self-esteem issues, which like kudos to him for bringing all these things up. I think they're really important. And it's part of why this backslide is so awful. But he talked about how as a result of his own mental health issues, he over-exercised to the point of his own detriment. And because of that, needed to use steroids. That's really important because he's putting his exercise routine out there as if that is a health promoting thing. And that is what got him to where it is. But it was actually detrimental for him, along with his diet, which a lot of people were surprised because his diet was out in those emails and he was eating a few hundred grams of carbs a day, but it still wasn't enough to offset the other kinds of things that he was doing. And most of the carbs are like dextrose and honey and things like that. But his diet alone, his supplements and everything were not enough to make up for his lifestyle. And there was obviously more tweaks that we'd have suggested diet-wise. And as a result, he needed steroids to prevent low T and low growth hormone and whatnot, and to create this unattainable body image due to his own self-esteem issues. And it's really great that he brought that up because I think most people in the fitness bodybuilding sphere will never acknowledge that the reason why they want their body to look a certain way is due to some mental health issues. I think that that's like really important to recognize. Like, I don't think we should be looking at that as a healthy body image in the vast majority of cases. Of course, we're generalizing, but it's unattainable without insane amounts of medications, essentially, and really damaging. Those people are not living long. They're not healthy. They're normally dealing with a lot of health issues. So he came out and said all these things, talked about his body image issues and said, like, yes, it's true. I've been on steroids. He owned up to it, apologized, and then went off of the steroids. And this is 8 months later. So that's, I guess, the kind of setup here.
Got it. Okay. So this is on his official channel, I think.
So Moist Critical calls me out, says that I'm back on steroids, has a whole bunch of accusations. Here's what I have to say back. Moist Critical, you're late to the party. All you had to do was go to liverking.com. All of it's there. All of it. I guess here's what I'll say. I didn't lie to anybody when I went on the podcast and I started talking about my earnest commitment to go natural. So this year, starting on January 2nd, I went 220 days without any steroid, without any growth hormone, without any peptide, without anything synthetic. If you call eating a pound of fresh, raw bull testicles every single day natural, then I've been natty as fuck for 220 days. There's been a lot of accusations. You don't just get more shredded and more vascular and more yada, yada, yada when you come off steroids. Once again, if you go to liverking.com and you see the stats page, I'm providing weekly updates. So I was about 206 pounds in December, and then I got all the way down to 182. So I've lost over 20 pounds. And anybody who interacts with me in real life will tell you I look leaner. For anybody who doesn't believe me, all you have to do is look at my social media photos. Look at it from December to now and tell me that you can't tell the difference. Massive difference. I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like the idea of losing over 20 pounds of muscle. I don't like the idea that became the reality of losing a lot of strength My 1 rep max strict press was like 255, and I couldn't even hit 205 in July. So I've decided to go back on it. I'm taking testosterone. It's a cream. I do 3 clicks of it a day. I'm also doing a growth hormone. It's 2 clicks a day. Really what's considered HRT or TRT. It's hormone replacement therapy, managed in the normal range, not a supraphysiological range. So why am I getting back on? I've done what I need to do. I've proven what I needed to prove to me. The commitment that I made to my boys, to my family, to all the primals out there, is I would never lie again. I went on record. I went onto my website. I went and said, I told it all. Anybody, like I said, if you're late to the party, that's fine. You can go and you can look at the confessional, why I decided to go back on. I've done what I need to do. I'm living my life by my terms, not somebody else's terms.
Do you think it was strategic that the clicks, like the 3, doesn't really say how much?
Yeah, that doesn't mean
Instead
anything.
of the dose. Yeah.
I really don't have too much of a problem with this, to be honest with you. Like, his lying is like, I think anybody that knew anything would know that he was not
He's
legit.
on roids, yeah.
But I thought it was more interesting just reading through those emails that Derek had posted of like him actually telling the truth about the whole situation. Like you said, like kind of getting where his head was at. But, and again, maybe I'm not looking at the kids or something that are following him or thinking that what he's saying is legit and harming themselves. Like, and so there's probably some element to this that I'm not aware of, but I guess I just never took him seriously to begin with. So it's so hard to like even be mad about what happened.
I think the biggest problem overall is not that he decides to do whatever he wants to do with that. Like, who cares? The biggest problem overall is that there is, and it's maybe it wasn't direct, but it was implicit that if you ate liver and ate primal and followed these things, that you would look like Liver King. Because that, like, the social media sale was his body, like how he was looking. And a lot, I mean, the thing is like, tons of people do this online, right? Like, how many bodybuilders go on Instagram and flex hard on how they look or this and that, and then write these plans and sell these programs, or even Hollywood stars who will make programs and plans and sell them to people. And then it's like, I did this in X number of weeks. It's like, I'm sure you did it in X number of weeks, but I just don't think that it was entirely related around diet and training stuff overall. There's another piece. Are there some people who have genetics to look, well, Liver Kings were on another level, but are there some people who have genetics to put on a decent amount of muscle and look a certain type of way easier than others? 100%. There's no question about that. There are some people, I know people who are freaks, literally freaks, like that. Even I've had an uncle in my family. He was my aunt's husband. The guy could eat McDonald's, Entenmann's cake every day. He didn't have any teeth in his mouth, but he was absolutely insanely ripped. And I know he wasn't on roids because he couldn't afford them based on how he was living and what he was doing. So he couldn't afford roids, but genetically, he was just out of control. Was his health good? No, his health was terrible. But the one thing is, he always worked out. He worked out every single day. He would always go in and work out. He'd always get his pump on. He would still smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. He couldn't run more than a quarter mile. I know, because we would shoot hoops sometimes together. But he was just like, he could hold a lot of muscle mass. He had a ton of muscle mass. He stayed lean overall. So there are people like that 100%. But he also didn't look like Liver King. He was big and he was like quite ripped. But the level of shredded with the amount of size that Liver King has, I think is, and some of the other bodybuilding physiques that you see are usually requiring assistance. And so for me, the biggest problem is promoting, at least implicitly implying, that you can look this type of way if you go on a primal diet or you follow the tenets. As far as some of Liver King's tenets and some of the things that he's recommending, I think they're fine. I think having a nutrient dense diet, I think incorporating animal foods, I think getting sunlight, I think, being exposed in nature, grounding, whatever you want to call it, all those types of things, community, high quality foods, organ meats, I think all these are great things. So it's not even the entire message that is even the problem. Being low carb or whatnot, I think that there's some problems with that, but it's just the implicit message of it that I think is a problem. As far as what Liver King wants to do, if he wants to be on steroids and look a certain way, who cares? But that's how he wants to be, and that's what he wants to do for his life. That's his choice. The other thing I want to mention here is, do I think that using something like testosterone in certain circumstances is bad? No. But like the growth hormone and probably all the other stuff he was doing, that is different. Just physiologic doses of testosterone aren't going to make you look like the primal Hulk. That is another level of physique that he's attained through some of those things. And the other thing is you can still look, even in a bioenergetic or pro-metabolic diet, you can be in quite good shape, hold a decent amount of muscle, and be quite lean as well. It's just, you won't necessarily look like that. And even for me, I work out regularly, control my diet very religiously, all this type of stuff. And I've been working out for years. And to get to the point that I'm at now has taken me years to do this, to understand how to go in, to lift appropriately, all this type of stuff. And even with all, like when you go through that process, you go through the years of putting the time in, understanding manipulation of diet, all these components, you start to understand like some of those things really aren't attainable. So for you and IJ, like you were lifting as well. We were both into the workout stuff together for quite some time. I know you're more into martial arts stuff now, but when we were going through it, like we knew the dedication, the time, the effort, and things like that. And we also were realistic about the outcomes. So when you see Liver King, you're like, yeah, dude's on roids. He's on the sauce. It's not even a question. But it's for people who don't have that reference experience, that is problematic to imply that that's how it's going to be, especially if there is I don't think he thinks there's problems with the low carb stuff, but to even if you wanted to be like pro level bodybuilder looking or like in really good shape, the low carb stuff is probably not the best way to go about it. So that was the biggest problem for me. As far as like him hopping on or doing this, whatever, that's his prerogative. And then as far as the body image stuff, I do agree with you. I think that the standard body image that is being promoted as acceptable now is unreasonable for what most people are going to achieve in general. Like the standards that get promoted on social media by a lot of guys who are heavily juiced up or who are on some type of assistance is like for natural guys is largely unfair, especially if they're not training and especially if they haven't been training for years. So it's like, that is also, I think, hugely a problem because it's skewing things in a perspective where young guys think that they have to hold that amount of muscle mass. And also, there's also a perspective that is actually healthy. The amount of lean tissue that he is holding with how lean he is, I think there's problems with that. And I think the dosage and the types of hormones that have to be used to get to maybe even to Liver King's physique or to other physiques that you see online is hugely problematic overall. And then obviously growth hormone isn't a good thing to optimize in general in terms of pushing fatty acid oxidation and whatnot.
Yeah. So two things. One, when Jay visited me, I put him in a Darce choke in less than 20 seconds. So I just want to put that on the record.
Lies.
And two, this is kind of off given everything you had just said there. But what was it, your uncle that maintained the muscle mass despite eating junk? Like, I just want to throw this out there that some people be like, oh, that's so awesome. But like, if a person's eating trash and like you said, they're not really that like mentally or physically healthy or mentally or something, like a person could sustain the high estrogen activation of the adrenals and then the adrenals producing androgens for like a long period of time, because how many of us have seen like ripped women or ripped people that were really ill? And so they're becoming like estrogenized and androgenized at the same time. And so they're having lots of symptoms, but they're just maintaining a large amount of muscle mass. And so I don't know, man, it's like talking, like all of us do, talking to people has radically changed my view of like thinking about what is and what isn't healthy. And I just want to throw that out there because I wouldn't even take that as necessarily like a fantastic thing. Like the in like a Cellian sense, like that organism is probably in the resistance stage or something of long-term stress. And they're just able to mount an adaptive response like way better than some Zoomer that, was off to the races immediately and had hypogonadism when they're 18, and versus a Gen Xer that can sustain that state for a really long period of time. But anyways, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do want to say, like, him being honest is really important here. Like the biggest issue that people had before was he was not telling all of it. There was the implicit idea that all this is attainable if you just follow what he was doing. And so I do want to commend him for being honest, although of course, in the first place, it was kind of forced upon him. It's not like he just came out on his own will, but he's like chosen to continue being honest about it. And that's a difficult thing to do with someone like him who's in the limelight and has, a lot of hate coming his way. So like, I do think that's commendable. And I also want to say, like, you can talk about his body image issues. I mean, he's talked about his body image issues, his mental health issues, and those are not his fault either. Like, we don't blame him for that. I'm not trying to say that like he is bad for then using the steroids as a result of that. I think he just hasn't overcome them. He still has work to do, and that's fine. Like, everyone's in a different place. We're in a really sick culture. Like he talked about, I think, like being bullied when he was young. Like that's a part of the human journey and experience, and is growing and building in all ways. And so it's okay. And I appreciate him being honest about it now. And you mentioned, Danny, like about like the kids following him. He was the one who made it about that. Like in his coming out video, he was like, there's so many kids dealing with depression and all this stuff. And so I wanted to set an example for them. And the one thing I want to say, is like along those lines is he is setting now still a negative example in terms of the body image and what, I mean, you were talking about it too, Mike, like you are creating an image of what somebody should be. You are trying to be the figure that for someone to look up to. And creating an unhealthy body image. You're kind of encouraging the cycle. And I hope that he breaks that. I hope that he can work through that at some point and get through this so that he doesn't continue to do that. And so yeah, I guess there's not too much to go on here. We'll let that last clip play.
Well, I'll play in a second, but like, I bet there's more to the story here. Like him just losing weight and therefore he's going back on steroids. This basically undercuts his entire message. It's like, not necessarily that you should look like me, but hey, this is the healthiest diet is being primal or whatever. But like, there's always everything he says on every Instagram clip for the rest of time is there's an asterisk with, I'm using testosterone and growth hormone. Do you know what I mean? Like he can't make any statements anymore about the health or whatever, because he's like doing these extracurricular things that are having a huge effect on him. And so that's why it was like in his best interest, I think, to not do anything. So I'm sure there's way more to this story, and I don't buy that he lost some weight, therefore he has to go back on it. I'm sure he's a mess. Like I'm sure it's way worse than that.
Well, and if he's saying like, there's this asterisk here because I'm dealing with mental health issues that make me use something that's not natural and ideal and is going to potentially cause problems and create essentially an unhealthy body. If that asterisk is there, I mean, it's like, I don't think we can fault him. It's not like anyone who suggests anything has to be perfect in every area of their lives. As long as he's honest about that, I think that's all he can do.
The problem is the problem with the overall picture, though, is like the way the brand is set up, at least maybe not he explicitly says these things, but implicitly from the audience, the brand is his body image, like how he actually looks associated with the primal lifestyle. Like he is positioned as the de facto primal man, and he follows his tenets and therefore looks like he does. And then his actual products should, to something that he uses himself, that should lead to this outcome. And so I think for him, like it's negative to the brand because for him to hop on and for people to have an awareness that he's on, which is why I think he probably wanted to lie about it in the first place. It's like every single bodybuilder doesn't want to really, or not every single, that's probably not unfair characterization, but a lot of bodybuilders in the past have not wanted to talk or disclose their steroid use because when people in general hear steroids, they automatically assume that whatever you're going to do, like it doesn't matter anymore because you're on steroids. So it like destroys this piece of like, oh, this training plan works, or this diet plan works, or this supplement plan works. It's like, well, what's really working is the steroids. And so that is like the steroid piece is net negative to a brand image that's being sold on the person's image, like physical image or how their body actually looks. And I think that is a problem. But for him, I assume with his physique that he wasn't just on growth hormone and testosterone before. And so especially, I don't know how tall he is. I'm almost 200 pounds, but he's probably a bit shorter because I'm over 6 foot. I don't know
like 5'9" or something.
He's really short.
So then that's actually a really decent amount of muscle mass for his height.
Did you see?
I would assume
his list of what he was taking. He's taking he was taking all the steroids. You know they came out with
I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but dude, like to look the way that he does,
he was taking
and to run the stacks that he did, I'm sure that he has problems afterwards, and not being on any type of exogenous help is probably not going to be good for him, not only because he lost 20 pounds or he got weaker in the gym, but maybe his system's having a hard time coming back online. Maybe he's suffering with neurosteroid synthesis. Maybe he's dealing with issues around depression. There's a lot of things that could be going wrong after hopping off that stack. If he was just on transdermal testosterone beforehand, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal, but he also probably wouldn't have looked like that. So it's like, I think I agree with you, Danny. I think that there's definitively other symptoms he's probably experiencing or things that he's dealing with overall that really shut down his system and cause problems. And he may be having a hard time rectifying that appropriately, especially because the way that people generally go about solving these issues now is not great, right? Like selective estrogen modulators to resensitize the gonadotropic system and things like that usually don't make people feel very good. So I think it's likely that he's dealing with other things. But yeah, the using steroids destroys a brand image. But one thing I do want to caveat here, it's important that you eat well and like train appropriately and do things to look a certain way while you're on steroids. But if you have a lot of assistance, it really makes the game super easy, like super, super easy compared to if you're natural. And I think if you're going to have a brand image online that's promoting some diet that you do or some supplement regimen or some training program that you do, you probably wouldn't want to be on steroids to show your before and after outcomes, because it's like, people know. I think people inherently understand the level of assistance that comes with these compounds. I even have clients will ask me, like, I've had a couple of clients, usually young guys, like, how can I drastically change all of these factors really quick? And it's like the things that you want to change, like get this amount of muscle mass and this % body fat and this amount of time and like change these types of androgenic features and whatnot, is like, though the idea that you have in mind is like through pharma, that's through steroids, that's through drugs, and there are costs to that. That's the other thing that I think is important to talk about is, if you want to look like that, fine. What are you risking to look like that? What is the downsides? What are the health effects of using the compounds or running the compounds the way he was or is using them to get this particular look? Because if you could look that way and the compounds you're using didn't have any negative effects overall, then I think it'd be hard to argument against it per se. But the problem is that there are actually significant health problems that come along with these types of things. I know the mental health piece and all that, but I'm saying overall, like from someone's perspective, from a young guy's perspective, that's like, if there's no downsides and there's no problems, like, why not? But like there are.
And it's not just downsides to the substances themselves, but also having that amount of muscle mass and forcing it in that way, it comes at inherent costs to other functions. So that's a piece of it. And then also, I know you were saying, forget the why you want to look that way, but also, why do you want to look like that way? That's an important question here.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, let's get to this last clip.
I've never said, taking my supplements, you're going to look like me. What I have said is, make sure to get the early morning sun, get your bare feet connected, grounded, anchored into the earth, so that you can express your highest and most dominant form. You, to express your potential, not to look like Liver King. There's no amount of working out, sleeping, eating, moving, Shield Connect Cold, all of this stuff. There's nothing you can take to look like Liver King. My supplements won't do it.
There is things you could take to look like Liver King, and they're usually injectables.
Yeah. But again, he is like, this is really important to acknowledge. Like I'm glad that he said this here, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. It is fair. It's just, the problem though is like, it's almost like, I feel as if, you know, when you're doing this type of stuff that you're having that implicit association. Like, people are going to conflate your appearance with the things that you're promoting. Like, that isn't literally what the marketing is for, to create the conflation.
That's why his image is out there with shirtless all the time. That's the whole point of it.
100%. If he didn't want his body appearance to be influencing people's opinion about the things that he was doing, the guy would be in a sweatshirt every single time, not with a raccoon on his head and a spear, like ripped and oiled up.
I mean, when I look at his physique, I think of like breast implants, like phony. Like like when I think of like, oh my God, amazing physiques, I think of like the 1970s bodybuilder types with the vacuum guts and things. Like that's what I think is really cool looking, not his physique. And so,
well, his structure is a little, I think because of the growth hormone he's using, his waist and he got a lot of growth. There's something called palumboism. I'm not saying he has palumboism. No, I'm saying growth hormone in general enlarges a lot of different areas of the body besides just muscle mass. And his physique may be partly a function of that.
Well, and I think along those lines, I think he looked better when he was 20 pounds down off the steroids.
Yeah, well, you could tell his stomach was way more like the V shape tighter.
That's literally what my wife said as well. She's like, I like him. He looks better, leaner. The other thing is there are studies talking about what women actually like in terms of male appearance with musculature. And the high level of musculature was actually not the optimal choice. Like the bodybuilder level of musculature was not considered the most attractive to females. It was like a more average attainable physique, like the Calvin Klein type look thing. Things along those lines, which are naturally attainable. Even when I talked to my wife about the look, she's like, no, it's very unattractive. She says, again, this is her opinion. I'm not saying this about Liver King or people think whatever they want, but it's like a balloon animal look. Like it just looks unnatural. It doesn't look real. So, and there is research to actually support this. So I think that understanding that and having that perspective is helpful for guys as well. Because the people who like this look, who think this is great, is other guys. Other guys looking, you're like, oh man, he must be like, he's super alpha. He's a Chad. He must be this. He must be that because he's so muscular. Because men respect size and muscle and things like that. But as far as like sexual attraction for women, at least from some of the studies, it doesn't appear that super high muscle mass and with like the veins and like tons of leanness and things like that to that level is actually optimally attractive. So I think that's important for guys to understand. And it's like, what is your goal? If you are trying to look a certain type of way as a man, what is your goal? Right? There's a health benefit. A lot of guys like, I want to look good for girls. I want to look good naked. Like, I think those things are fine. I think those are fine, realistic things to do. It's just like, there's a certain level where it becomes pathologic, where it becomes a problem. And it's like, what are you actually shooting for? What are your outcomes? What do you actually want with this particular type of look? And then what do you have to do to get to this particular type of look for your outcomes? And is going further to these levels worth it, reasonable, realistic, and what is the actual downsides? I think those things are really important to consider.
It's from Mike Red Pill Tate Fave. Good. Yeah, good stuff.
Just to echo like one quick point, as you were saying, Mike, this isn't about what women find attractive. It's not about health. This is about his unhealthy body image that is leading him to do this. And it's coming at the inherent cost of his health. He's not like coming as clean, I think, about that. But he did say like, this is mental health issue struggles for him. And yeah, so, and in his initial emails, when he was reaching out to Derek, he was talking about like, he sent pictures and like mentioned like his lower back fat. And this guy looks like he does now. Like it was like, he's obviously like mentally ill in that regard to some extent. And again, that's okay. Like everyone's working through things, but yeah, I guess I'm going to repeat myself a lot, but I think I just wanted to echo what Mike was saying. Like, it's not about health. It's not about what women want. This is his own thing.
Yeah. There's so much we don't know as well, but he released some of that stuff in those emails that Derek talked about.
If you enjoyed that clip, you'll definitely want to download the free Energy Balance Food Guide. The Energy Balance Food Guide will help you determine exactly what to eat to optimally support your metabolism and help you lose weight, improve your digestion, get amazing sleep, boost your energy, and so much more. The Food Guide makes it extremely easy to get started with a bioenergetic approach to optimizing your health. So head over to jfeldmanwellness.com/guide to download your free Energy Balance Food Guide.